Today, Bitcoin quickly rises after jumping above $60,000 for the first time in more than 2 years. Sam Bankman-Fried asks for a shorter prison sentence. And BitGo's Mike Belshie breaks down the Bitcoin ETF hype and the cryptocurrencies rally. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Tanea McKeel. Bitcoin's rally continuing this morning with the cryptocurrency shooting above $60,000 for the first time in more than 2 years. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin jumped more than 9.5% to around $62,500, less than $7,000 short of its all-time high reached back in November 2021. Just 10 minutes later, Bitcoin crossed the $63,000 mark as it was rising quickly. Be sure to check out CNBC.com for the latest price updates. As of noon Eastern, Ether shot up nearly 6% to $3,420, its highest level since April 2022. And Solana soared nearly 9% to $116. The moves gave a lift to Bitcoin-related stocks this morning, with Coinbase rising nearly 5% and MicroStrategy jumping more than 13% as of noon. Investors are expecting Bitcoin to set a new record this year after the launch of ETFs made the asset class more accessible to institutional investors, and with the network's halving event set for April. That event has historically set the stage for a major rally in the months that follow. On the ETF front, BlackRock's IBIT recorded more than $2 billion in trading volume so far today, after $1.3 billion in volume yesterday. This week alone, Bitcoin soared more than 21% after a week-long pause of this year's rally. As of noon, it was up more than 46% for the year. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. Attorneys for Sam Bankman-Fried are seeking a shorter prison sentence for the convicted former FTX executive, citing medical conditions including autism. SBF's lawyers are suggesting a sentence of 5 to 6.5 years, much lower than the roughly 100 years that he faces for stealing billions of dollars from FTX customers. In this sentencing memo filed yesterday, his lawyers argued that a long prison sentence would pose a risk to Bankman-Fried's safety due to his autism spectrum disorder, given people with the condition could struggle with social cues and might be more likely to fail to respond in an expected way to other inmates and prison guards. They added that the harm to FTX customers, lenders, and investors for the collapse of FTX is zero, given customers and creditors are now expected to get their money back in full from bankruptcy. Next, Senator Elizabeth Warren blasted crypto again, stressing that the industry needs to follow the same rules as TradFi, like banks and credit card companies. While talking with Bloomberg yesterday, she said that she wants to collaborate with the crypto industry, but that it has been reluctant to follow the rules. She added that crypto has been helping to fuel drug traffickers, terrorists, and the rogue nations like North Korea. Warren stressed she wants a level playing field for crypto and pointed to her digital asset anti-money laundering bill introduced last year, which would bring anti-money laundering requirements to the industry. By the way, this comes amid the entry of a new challenger for her Senate seat in Massachusetts, John Deaton, a pro-crypto attorney, and his millions of dollars have flowed into crypto-backed PACs. Notably, though, Deaton faces an uphill battle in a state Senator Warren handily won in 2018. All right, let's talk more about that huge rally in crypto this morning. For our main story, I spoke with Mike Belshie, the CEO of BitGo, about Bitcoin's push to near all-time highs. He shared what he thinks is driving the market higher. Exciting day. Bitcoin above 60K today for the first time in more than 2 years and inching closer and closer to its record. To start broadly, what do you make of it?
Well, it's a good day, of course. For those of us that have been working hard in the space for so long, we've been expecting that this will continue to happen. And I think immediately right now what's going on is that we've actually removed all the barriers for institutional adoption. The ETFs were kind of the last hurdle I think we had to get over. But basically at this point, you have a blessed approach by the US government, by the regulators that says this is a perfectly fine way to access Bitcoin. And it's taking off exactly as we expected.
Yeah, it sure is. And we have a lot of things that I want to talk with you about, this week. So looking at last week, Bitcoin kind of took a pause from its rally this year. It was trading sideways all week, and then it kind of woke up at the start of this week, and it's just been soaring higher and higher. And it feels a lot like that good hype again. It feels, dare I say it, a little bit like 2021. There are some obvious differences because there have been so many developments in the space. How is now different from 2021?
Well, I guess I'll take some issue with the term good hype. I think all hype is bad. This is actually a long-term thing. If you're looking at Bitcoin, you should be thinking about How do you want to invest in Bitcoin over the long term, not the short term? Over the short term, you're going to see ups and downs. It's highly volatile. People are figuring it out. New things are coming out. Regulators are changing. There's a lot of reasons for things to go sideways or trade in unexpected patterns. But just this week, Fidelity has their all-in-one funds with recommended portfolios, and their conservative version of it says you should have 1% in Bitcoin. The aggressive version of it says you should have 3% in Bitcoin. And what we're seeing on the ETF front is just larger inflows than outflows. So I've been in the space for about 10 years. We talk to institutions all the time, and the people that are best at predicting price, I think, are usually looking at, okay, what are the upward demand side pressures that are coming, and then what are the downward pressures in terms of sales and things like that. And right now, what we're seeing is that there's just a tremendous influx in the ETFs. There was a pent-up demand for this. I think the first sectors that come in, the RIA sector is one that we've all talked about for years. It's frankly, it's kind of a decentralized sector, right? You've got thousands of RIA managers all over the nation, and it's been difficult to access Bitcoin natively. It's a bigger risk for them, but to be able to suddenly be able to participate on the ETF side, that's completely unlocked. So the same story is true for a number of hedge funds, endowments, things like this. And we're just seeing this start to take off. The approval came in January, had to kind of watch a little bit of the initial shakeout happen, but definitely you can see investment decisions being made all over the nation right now.
Talk a little bit more about the supply and demand dynamics. I know that for many months now, we've been waiting for these ETFs to be approved. They came in January. Now the Bitcoin price has been climbing higher and higher, and we're constantly turning to these ETFs and saying, look at the positive impact that it's had. Talk to me a little bit about what exactly is going on, why the price is rising, and why that's significant, especially now when we have not even hit the halving yet, which is expected in April.
Yeah, the halving, it comes up a lot as a topic. I do think it affects the sales that miners do. For those that aren't familiar, Bitcoin is a fixed supply schedule. It's all announced in advance. So unlike the Fed, where we're always guessing as to how they're going to treat the supply on a month-by-month basis, in the case of Bitcoin, it's been fixed for 15 years. It's fixed for the next 100 years. We know exactly what's going to happen, and that allows us to think logically about our investment there. In terms of the immediate price that we're seeing right now on the inflow side, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I hope I don't get it quite wrong. I think there was 500 million of net positive inflows into just the BlackRock ETF.
It was about that,
yeah. 11 ETFs approved, in January. The two big ones, Fidelity and BlackRock. What are Fidelity and BlackRock? These are the two largest asset managers on the planet. It's a massive distribution channel, is what it is. And suddenly, Bitcoin is being sold through that distribution channel. So the inflow side is quite high. In terms of the largest downward pressure on sales, obviously it can come from the market. Mr. Market is a moody guy, and sometimes he wakes up grumpy and he wants to sell. But in terms of the things we know about, miners who are doing the security, the validation of the network, they need to pay their bills. They pay their people, they pay their electricity, et cetera. So that's downward pressure that happens on a daily basis in terms of price. But at this point, that's far exceeded by the upward pressure, which is coming from the new distribution channel through Fidelity and BlackRock.
Where do you see the retail investor right now and down the road this year? I know that there was a pause in retail appetite recently between the end of last year. I think that's rebounded a little bit in February. But, I look at the setup for this year, and I know that we have all of this demand coming in largely thanks to the ETFs. But, what does that mean for Bitcoin adoption, I guess? Because buying as an investor into ETF shares is different from, say, a retail investor opening a new wallet address. So to what extent does growth adoption in those terms still matter in a post-ETF world?
Well, I think the ETF actually does make it accessible to retail. I think that's actually the big benefit of it. A couple of years ago, without an ETF, whatever your walk of life is, whether you're retail or institutional, you had to assemble a number of parts together. Obviously, BitGo's been building that for the institutional side in order to make it so that these distribution channels could open. But now, you can call up Charles Schwab, your existing broker, the same place where you buy your Apple stock and your Microsoft stock and all that. You can do it through Robinhood. You can do it through a number of parties. And you can now have direct access to Bitcoin without having to get into the details of holding private keys. Now, some people on the Bitcoin purist side are concerned about this. I do think that it's something to watch. Does this centralize the entire product and distort it in some way? And over time, we'll see how that grows. But I think the big answer there is mostly around the fact that Bitcoin is so global. Bitcoin is not just a US product. Bitcoin is a global product. And the most amazing thing about it is that you can have liquidity from your Bitcoin in any nation in the entire world, right? So if you're in South Africa, if you're in Singapore, if you're in the United States, Canada, et cetera, you can get liquidity. And that's a real attribute outside of just the ETFs.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.